life went on, and to recover from that illness and give thanks for it, I started giving concerts in the church I was with, up to full orchestra, chorus, soloists, brass, strings, and that lasted until about 1967. By then I had 2 sons, and sadly my wife had died in tragic circumstances. At that stage I inherited a doctor who said to me, "I'm not having a knee like that in my practice." And I just started at a school where I taught for 12 years. A very, very nice school. I won't mention its name, except it was a public school. And I was very happy there for 12 years. One of the things they benefited you with is to give you free membership of Bupa. And my doctor said, "Right, we're on, let's do Bupa." I saw a very good specialist, and a couple of days later I was operated on for what was called a mastoidectomy. He removed the eardrum that had been causing trouble because I had a persistent and chronic ear infection for 29 years. The hospitals had tried desperately any form of antibiotics. I became overdosed with them. When they first saw me, the specialist said, "I've tried 14 antibiotics and none of them will work." So he took out not only the bones, but he took out all the contents he could practically to my brain. That was that operation, and that was the beginning of another part of my life. That did not help my hearing, but up to then I'd survived on one ear, apart from my RAF medical. So I just carried on. I wrote music for the school, for young boys, for older boys in wind and brass groups. I taught piano, recorder, and all sorts of things. Still, hearing all the music in my head and being able to alter it in my head before I wrote it down. Otherwise, I'd never be able to write so much. And I'd probably written far too much. Then, at that stage, I got married again. And my 2 sons, a few years later, and I were joined by another member of the family, a daughter. So there are now 5 of us. And we call them Team Douglas. And Team Douglas has been going there for all that time. Now I have to jump again. In about the early 80s, I had another illness which ended with a pulmonary embolism, and I was out for about 3 or 4 years. Then someone said, "There's a job going at a place called Christchurch, Morningside. I go there. Would you be interested in applying? They need an organist." I thought, why not? So I tried, and suddenly I had an interview, and I was appointed. From 86 until 2006, I was associated with that place. And again, I had a lot to learn, but the choir was very patient, and we worked very happily. One concert we gave was called a Viennese Gala Evening. The church holds about 400 people. For that evening, with a lot of professional musicians, we filled the church. You could not find an empty seat. And that was miraculous because it paid for a new piano for the choir rehearsal room. And the one we had was pretty awful. So now we had that, and things went from strength to strength. All this time I kept writing, and in 1991 something else happened to me, another problem. I had a stroke which destroyed the left hearing nerve, and then I realised I did not hear at all. Again, there was a good side to it, because after trying hearing aids and treatment, all the doctor said to me is, "Beethoven was deaf, you know, there's nothing to stop you writing music." And there was a lady called Judith, I won't tell you any more about her name, and she taught lip reading. So I attended her course for 2 years, And she would say things like, I've been shopping this morning. Shopping. Do you see the words on my lips? Shopping. This is a cabbage. And the whole hour be spent with sentences around using the word cabbage. So you learned all that. After 2 years, you learned some words, but also you realised in English there were things called homonyms, which meant a word looked the same as another word. That was a problem. Anyway, that was done. And what I would emphasise is this. With lip reading, I don't get every word. I never can. Nobody ever will. All you get is what the sentence is about. And that's it. If you need to hear any more, you have to ask. That's what I call lip reading. Now I come to the last bit of my life. By this time, I've written a great deal of music. 15 symphonies, 36 organ works, 75 pieces called the Christchurch Sequence in 5 years, 32 flute work. I won't bore you with anymore. A lot of music. So much that an American university called it prolific. Prolific composers in this country are not too popular because some famous composers write 32 works in a lifetime. I've written over 1,000. I can't count anymore.